From the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O
Lord. Jesus said to his disciples, "There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on earth nations will be in dismay, perplexed by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will die of fright in anticipation of what is coming upon the world. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. But when these signs begin to happen, stand erect and raise your heads, because your redemption is at hand. Beware that your hearts do not become drowsy from carousing and drunkenness and the anxieties of daily life, and that day catch you by surprise like a trap. For that day will assault everyone who lives on the face of the earth. Be vigilant at all times. Pray that you have the strength to escape the tribulations that are imminent, to stand before the Son of Man." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
You may not realize it, but you're very blessed. And you're a minority of people in the United States and throughout the world who are at this time of year celebrating Advent. Advent is not something that is known of or spoken about. As you know, in most of our towns and families, we're already celebrating Christmas parties, and that's normal, going to varied businesses or homes, family reunions, and I'm sure, 99% sure, that no one is going to talk about Advent. You're not going to tell your family or friends, neighbors, "Oh, by the way, we're in the Advent season." You're a minority. And I'm a minority even speaking about it. Why do we need Advent? Well, today's reading, which is apocalyptic, talks about the end of time. Jesus makes it very clear that the end will come. Not just the end with earthquakes or tornadoes or volcanoes or whatever, but the end of the world as we know it is going to come. Now, for some people, it may come at the time of death, but he says it's more than that. There will be an ending to the world as we know it. Now, for people who have not prepared for the second coming, it's going to be frightening. That's what Jesus says. He says, "Beware that your hearts do not become drowsy from carousing and drunkenness, from the anxieties of daily life, and that they catch you by surprise like a trap." It's a trap. Huh? I have mice, so I have traps. So for that day will assault everyone who lives on the face of the earth. Be vigilant at times. Pray that you have the strength to escape the tribulations that are imminent. In other words, if you're ready, it won't be scary. If you know who's coming, you won't be frightened. If you know who God is and you've seen him in prayer, you've heard of him in the word that's being proclaimed week after week, you're going to be ready. And listen to that beautiful reading from, somebody moved my ribbon. Don't ever do this with the ribbon, whoever did it. Listen to what he says here. He says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, we earnestly ask and exhort you in the Lord Jesus that as you received from us how you should conduct yourselves to please God, and as you are conducting yourselves, you do so even more. For you know what instructions we gave you through the Lord Jesus. Paul's second reading. So, Advent is a time for us to prepare. We don't like to prepare for many things. We like things to be instant gratification. We don't like to wait, and Advent is a time of waiting. But there are different ways that we can wait. So if you go down the highway and you've got to go to the emergency room, and you look at the number of minutes you have at some highways now, the Elliott Hospital, if you're coming on 93, it says like a 23-minute wait before they see you. Oh, well, let me call another place, see if I can get it quicker. Or else, when you go to, a supermarket, you've got to wait in line. Or think of going to the airport during this time of year and having to catch a flight. And you have to wait, or you have to change gates. And once you change gates, the plane's been delayed. Those are all experiences of waiting that are not very favorable. Now, waiting doesn't have to be a negative experience. It can also be a time of growth. So I'll give you two examples. One is a couple I'm preparing. They're from the Lowell area. They came to see me, they want to get married a year and a half from now. So they both shared with me their stories, which were rather sad. She had been going out with 3 different men before she met this last one. And every one of them had been a very negative experience. She had been used, she'd been abused, and finally came to the conclusion after she went to a young adult retreat that she was looking in all the wrong places. The priest at that retreat encouraged her to take a deep look at herself, to return to her faith. She had not been practicing her faith much. Instead of seeking a man, to seek the Lord. Now that may sound strange. It wasn't that he was telling her not to get married, but he said, put your priorities in order. In the meantime, the young man that she's engaged to, they had never known each other, had gone through a similar experience. He had been engaged twice. In both situations, realized that he was not compatible with that woman. They were not evenly yoked, so to speak. His faith was somewhat important. The women he had dated did not want to practice their faith at all. So he came to the conclusion that he had to do something. So he met with his priest, and the priest again said, put your priorities in order. Seek the Lord. They both got similar advice, which is amazing. So finally, after much prayer and discernment, they went on a Catholic website, met, and the rest is history. But they were sharing with me how waiting in their case had been so important. See, sometimes we don't think waiting is important, but it can be. And Advent is waiting for God. You see, we live in this culture of ours that Christmas has become part of our nature now from prior to Thanksgiving on. Go to any store, Thanksgiving decorations are gone 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, and everything is out for Christmas. So in the meantime, we get mesmerized by all these things, these events, and I hate to sound trite, but the reason for the season is Jesus. He is the reason for the season. And unless we take time in our own lives to discover who He is, then Christmas does become very trite. The 25th comes, and we're exhausted. There's nothing left. We don't enjoy the holiday, or we don't enjoy the 12 days of Christmas. We take everything down because we've lost the sense of what is important. So today Jesus is telling us, put into practice what's important in your life. Don't take shortcuts. friend of mine went skiing last year at Jay Peak, and he didn't want to go all the way down the trail, so he decided to take a shortcut that said, "Do not come on this trail." They have those signs. So he decided to take that trail, ended up in a ravine covered with water. Thank God he had a cell phone. He had broken both heels. Took a shortcut. See, we take shortcuts to Jesus. We take shortcuts to Christmas. We don't want to wait. And so we're disappointed in the end. Because we've not done what the whole essence of this feast is about. So that's why Jesus in today's gospel says, beware that your hearts do not become drowsy from carousing and drunkenness and the anxieties of daily life. That's why we're here today. We're a minority. We're here today because we want to hear the good news. We want to hear the truth. The truth sets us free. So beware that your hearts do not become drowsy from carousing, drunkenness, the anxieties of daily life, and that day catch you by surprise like a trap. There's more to Christmas. Jesus has come. The Word made flesh. He will come again, but also during this time of year, He wants to be born into our hearts, into our families, into our lives. In conclusion, when you leave the church today, we'll be giving you these little blue books. It says at the beginning, if you take this 6 minutes a day, it can change your life. So, what do you have to lose?